Greetings and salutations, listeners and viewers. Welcome to another episode of Game Break. I am Charles, coming to you today with another episode of Cursed Sight. Last time round, we bid farewell to our temple. We bid farewell to Sasa. Mion and Guy headed off to meet some mysterious peoples who apparently work for East Taria and have been futzing with the whole destiny and whatnot. Basically another Cursed Sight person, similar to Mion. We've met them, not quite sure if we like them. I'm kind of curious to see where this goes. I was expecting his sister to pop up at some point, and it hasn't yet. It's not to say it won't happen, but how about we dive in and see where things go? Zolu and Mion both had the Cursed Sight, but they sure acted differently. Mion would never break down like this, but it made me think. Perhaps she was bottling just as much guilt inside of her. Neek tried to lift Zolu up, but she shook her head and refused to rise. I've done something unforgivable to these two. It's only right that they would hate me. Seeing Zolu like this evaporated my anger. Now I stood frowning, unsure of what to say. Sasa once told me Mion never asked for her powers. It must have been the same case for Zolu. Mion put her hands on Zolu's shoulders. Your ruler must have forced you to resist my spells. It's the same way with me. Guy is from West Taria, so he understands as well. Right, Guy? Yeah, sure. Judging from Mion's tone, if I said no, she would throw a pineapple at me. At least that fear helped me make up my mind. Sure, I guess. Oh, thank you so much. Zolu sniffled as she rose. Mistress Mion, Sir Guy, you are both too kind. Neek handed Zolu a handkerchief, and she used it to dab away her tears. You two told us to come here, so I hope you have a plan, I said. Neek and Zolu exchanged a look that told me they were as prepared as a baby tossed into a bullfight. Rest easy. Neek's voice deepened as he said this. In fact, his demeanor seemed to have shifted, exuding a confidence that outshone the moonlight. I'll think of something. My word is gold. Really? Really? Let's test this theory, shall we? Mion and Zolu fell silent. Did Neek's charm enthrall them? If I pulled off their veils, their eyes might be sparkling like the starry sky. Goddess, at this rate, even I might end up on the Neek bandwagon. That's a funky chibi head. She looks so sad. 2 nights had passed since Mion and I escaped into the forest. Locke must be panicking right now, not over Mion's safety, but rather the outcome of the war. Once he flipped Melody Way upside down, he would most likely send men to search this forest. If I had fled on my own path, perhaps I could have started a new life in some other village. Mion, with her cursed sight, would receive zero welcome, regardless of where she went. No way would I leave her behind for my freedom. Neek, with his golden word, had promised to figure something out. Well, he did erect half a dozen straw men around camp to keep those birds away, so he sorted that problem out, at least. Gotta love how those birds feared the straw men more than Neek himself. Despite having no plans about the future, Neek still wore a smug grin as he held a skewered rabbit in each hand and waved them in my face. "You only caught one last night. Here are two. So, snooze, you lose?" I think is what that's supposed to say. I rolled my eyes. "Cool story, champ. I might let you cut them open as well then." Neek's face twitched upon hearing my proposal. As a servant, I had done just about every dirty job out there. Unclogging toilets, clearing roach nests, and of course, butchering animals in the kitchen. Neek, on the other hand, seemed to faint at the mentioning of blood. He might have Mion and Zolu charmed, but I had serious doubts about his whole warrior act. Feeling like I had the last word, I snatched the rabbits from Neek and marched off. He probably darted glares behind my back, but let the haters hate. As I cut the rabbits up with a knife Neek had brought to camp, Zolu peeked at me from behind a tree. This was the third time I had caught her spying on me. Perhaps she wanted to check if I was dripping poison into the meat? That night, we gathered around the campfire to eat. Compared to what the chefs prepared for Mion back in the temple, we might as well be eating wood here. Praise the goddess nobody had gotten sick yet, with us drinking out of a nearby pond and all. Zolu spat out mouthfuls of meat from time to time. She did so in secret, probably to avoid hurting my feelings. Mion and Neek, on the other hand, spat them straight into the campfire. Once we finished eating, I said to Neek, "So when will you tell us about this plan of yours?" Just get ready to be blown away," Neek said in his deep voice. Convincing as always, that guy. Mion and Zolu sat in silence, no doubt captured by Neek's charisma once again. Maybe I should ask him for lessons sometime. Zolu snapped out of her trance. I wonder how things are going in West Taria. If I could force the war to end, I would. Anything to bring peace back to our nation. Get that thought out of your head, Mion said. Even if we combined our powers, it would not be enough to bend an entire nation to our will. We would sooner die from exhaustion. Likely. Zolu bit her lip, looking like she wanted to cry. I'm sorry for being so useless, Mistress Mion, Sir Guy. Really, really sorry. Mion put both hands over her hips, and to be honest, I wanted to do the same. When in doubt, it never hurts to apologize, but Zolu took things way too far. If she went into the bathroom when someone else needed to go, she might slice her throat as penance. Neek whispered into Zolu's ear, Should we get started? Zolu nodded, and after a bow, retreated into the tent with Neek. They had been pulling the same stunt every night. A boy and a girl alone in a tent. Just what could be going on inside? Obviously they're playing cards. And nothing else. Mion slapped me across the head. Get your mind out of the gutter. I shrugged at Mion's accusation. Sure, I had no right to invade Zolu and Neek's privacy, but I feared they might be plotting something. Once Mion got up and walked off, I edged toward Zolu and Neek's tent, hoping to listen out for clues. As I drew nearer, I heard Zolu's laughter coming from inside. If Zolu could get through a day without apologizing, I would thank the goddesses for that miracle. I would never imagine I would hear her chuckle like this. Just what kind of voodoo did Neek perform? "I think I heard something." Neek's voice came from inside the tent. "Uh-oh, time for me to bail." The next morning, I watched as Zolu failed over and over to catch the rabbits running around her. With the rain growing heavier, I feared she would slip and break her nose in a puddle. Unable to watch anymore, I asked, "Need some help?" Zolu shook her head vigorously. "It's my turn to hunt today. Please leave it to me." "Well, I admire your determination." Oh, are you impressed?" Zolu bounced up to me with a grin. She might have the cursed sight, but I guess she still liked praise as any child would. At least this beat having to hear her say sorry from morning to night. "Sure, I'm impressed. Very impressed." I reached out to pat Zolu's head, but she had that veil on, so I had to settle for rubbing her hat. Zolu twiddled her fingers and giggled. Jeez, why must I pamper the one responsible for Salsa's death? I guess staying mad proved to be pretty tiresome. It might have been easier if Zolu was some loud dude with bad odor. See, this is why girls annoyed me sometimes. Zolu regained her serious demeanor. "Actually, Sir Guy, I've been wanting to talk to you alone." "That's why you've been stalking me?" I shook my head as Zolu blushed. Yes, I've noticed. You make a pretty bad spy." "Mistress Mion and I both have cursed sight, but our powers are quite different. I can see into the past and even affect it to a small extent." "The fuck?" Zolu gripped me by the arms. "Sir Guy, I wish to learn about your history." "Why me?" With Zolu's cursed eyes leaning towards mine, the air felt heavy and difficult to inhale. It took all I had to refrain from pushing her into the mud. "You are unique, Sir Guy. Please, it will only take a moment," Zolu said. Calling me unique told me a grand total of nothing. Too bad for her, I had many secrets I wished to keep buried. Being sold by her family hardly counted as a crowning achievement. The dark thoughts I held against my parents belonged to me alone. Zolu put on a defeated smile. "Please accept my apologies for such a sudden request. It's only natural that you'd feel uncomfortable, but should you change your mind, please do let me know." This meant she would be hassling me about this again. At least she asked for my permission first, but if she grew desperate, that courtesy might go flying out the window. After bowing at me, Zolu returned to hunting, or at least her failed attempt to do so. Just what did she want to find out? At this rate, I might drown inside this pool of anxiety. Zolu showed up at lunch with no food to offer. This hardly came as a surprise, I must say, and the way she burst into tears was just as unsurprising. "I'm sorry for being so useless. Really, really sorry." Zolu looked ready to collapse onto her hands and knees. Neek put a stop to this madness by lifting her by the armpits. Mion trotted up to Zolu, looking like she had seen enough. As she raised her hands, I thought she might slap Zolu silly for being useless. Instead, Mion stretched Zolu's cheeks and pulled her lips into a smile. Sasa used to pinch our faces in the same way when we were little. Even in death, I doubted Sasa would fault Zolu for what had taken place. Mion came into this forest with the heart to forgive as well. I, on the other hand, harbored enough hatred to make Locke look like a saint. Imagining Sasa's disappointment made me hang my head. "Stop hating yourself so much," Mion said. Zolu managed a small nod, and Mion let go of her face. When Zolu loathed herself to this extreme, even I had trouble holding on to my grudge. "I'll find some food for you all," Neek said, his voice going real deep. "You have my solemn vow." Mion and Zolu fell speechless once again. If Neek walked into a room filled with teenage girls, the fight for his affection might be more terrifying than the war between East and West Taria. Nonetheless, this must be another one of his golden pledges. If his promise for food proved as reliable as the one he made about planning our future, I might as well go nibble on some grass right now and call that my lunch. At least Neek did make a start by strolling off to hunt. Zolu, meanwhile, shuffled away in the opposite direction. She stared at the dirt underfoot while she walked as if looking for a pit to stumble into. Mion and I traded nods before following Zolu. Label us stalkers if you must, but should this keep up, I feared Zolu might hurt herself. As I walked, I suddenly felt something with legs landing on my head. I counted at least 6 legs tickling my hair. It had to be a spider, one big enough to cover my entire skull, no less. With a yelp, I frantically brushed both hands across my head. Roaches? Whatever. Spiders? Get it off, get it off. Especially those forest ones, which could be more venomous than Mion's mouth whenever I messed up her ritual. Mion reached for my head, clearly unaware of how dangerous the wild could be. "Relax, it's a tree branch," Mion said, waving a stick at me. If Zolu found a pit to fall into, I wondered if she would let me join her. Life had become a little too mean for my tastes. Zolu came running in our direction. Did she see what happened and wanted to come and laugh in my face? Judging from her grin, that certainly appeared to be her intention. "Mistress Mion! Sir Guy!" Zolu shouted as she caught up to us. "I found something! Come, come!" Zolu dragged Mion and me by her wrists and led us to a pond filled with fish. See, there are plenty of fish for us to catch and eat here." Zolu bounced up and down by the pond. Mion and I held her hand to stop her from slipping into the water. "As long as you're not the one catching them," I mumbled. Zolu stopped jumping and now looked like she wanted to walk into the pond and drown herself. Mion stomped on my foot, making me change my tone. "But wow, what a discovery!" Mion and I gave Zolu's hat a good rubbing. Zolu beamed, clinging on to every praise like a soldier preserving his rations. Jeez, what a handful. That's a nice screen. Transition! As the crescent moon dangled under the starry sky, I towed my exhausted self back into the tent. I found Mion and Zolu sitting inside, chuckling at a bunch of papers sprawled across the grass. Oh no. Being stranded in this forest had at last unwired their brains. Hang on, you two. Dr. Guy has arrived to shake some sanity back into your heads. Good evening, Sir Guy, Zolu said, giggling. Take a look at these comics Neek drew. Neek, an artist? Then I must be a rocket scientist without even knowing it. I did recall seeing street artists in West Taria during my childhood. My parents had bought me some of their comics even. Watch your backside, Neek. I knew my stuff when it came to art. I picked a few pages off the ground to flip through. Both the art and humor seemed passable at best, but I might just be lashing out because Neek happened to be the artist. Had Mion and Zolu never read a comic before? Talk about easily amused. If they ever saw a performer juggling 2 balls, they might die from a laughing fit. I recalled hearing Zolu laugh like this in her tent a few nights ago. This meant Neek and Zolu's nightly meetings had in fact been comic reading sessions. Zolu seemed to be loosening up now that we had spent almost a week together. As for Mion, I had forgotten the last time she chuckled like this. Not since Sasa's death, I believed. Seeing her smile made me do the same. I knew you'd like these comics, Zolu said, lifting her chin as if she had authored those pages. She must have thought my smile meant I loved the comics. Yeah, they're all right, I said, handing the pages back to Zolu. Neek's a really good artist, Zolu said. Mistress Mion says she loves the comics too. Mion gently slapped Zolu's hat, causing it to slant. Remember what I said, no more of that mistress stuff. Zolu straightened her hat. Okay, Mion. Mion nodded, giving off the aura of an older sister training her sibling. No, and no more sir for Guy, either. Actually, I kind of like it, I said. Mion lowered her head in my direction, looking like she wanted to fold every paper around her into planes and suicide bomb them at my man parts. With a sigh, I nodded. Yeah, no more sir for me. Got it. Mion, Guy, Zolu said, beaming as Mion stroked her hair in praise. You two sure are close. Is that so? I collected the pages off the ground and ordered them by page, all in an effort to keep cool. I didn't click on that. Zolu nodded 3 times, as if worried Mion and I might miss the first 2 nods. Mr. Mion keeps talking about you whenever we're alone. She said you taught her how to find joy in life. That's cool. I double-checked the comic pages to make sure they flowed in the right order. Hang on, maybe I should check them 3 more times, just to be safe. Go for a walk, Guy, Mistress Mion said, her face as red as a lantern that had caught fire. My cheeks felt like they had been lit by a match, so I probably looked just like her right now. Come on, Guy. This was the perfect situation for a man to show his cool. I tried to retort in the same deep voice that Neek often used. Your words have always been etched into my heart. Mion stretched her hands towards Zolu, looking ready to hurl her at me. Okay, a walk, a walk. The second I bolted, Mion zipped up the tent. No doubt about to engage in a girls-only talk with Zolu about keeping secrets. So that's what Mion thinks of me, I muttered to myself and cackled, causing the ravens overhead to scatter from their nests. Sorry, birds, but this evening belonged to Guy, champion of the wild. I needed to call Mion out on one mistake, though. She said I taught her how to find joy in life, but that credit in fact belonged to Sasa. I would know, as she had shown me the same thing. Without her, I might have hung myself a long time ago. Seeing Mion smile made me feel fine with putting the futures on hold. With her around, maybe living out our lives in this forest with the spiders and bats could be okay. Well, all right. I could do without the spiders. I spotted several comic pages scattered outside Neek's tent. That klutz must have slipped them off his butterfingers. Picked up one of the pages to take a look. Let's see, a drawing of a boy and a girl embracing each other, their faces inches apart from a kiss. The two characters sure looked like Neek and Zolu. Somehow I got the feeling Neek never intended for this particular piece to see the light of day. Hey! Neek shouted from behind me. He swept every page off the dirt before snatching the one I was holding in my hand as well. Listen, you, Neek panted. This is a secret between men, got it? I nodded, struggling to keep a straight face. A few chuckles escaped despite my greatest efforts. First few, then okay, a lot. How about this? I do a sketch of you and Mion, then you keep your mouth shut, Neek said. There's no need, but hey, Zolu really loves your comics. In fact, that's probably one of the things she likes about you best, so maybe you can stop trying to act cool and just be yourself. Zolu likes me? You really think so? Yeah, maybe. Goddess, there were so many Z's in there I thought Neek had fallen asleep. And there's something else. Neek regained his composure as he waited for me to continue. Your comics put a smile on Mion's face, I said, averting my gaze. So, thanks. So, even a commoner like you recognizes my talents, Neek said. What did I just say about stop trying to act cool? His smug grin made me regret ever praising him. One kind word and this guy thought he was champion of the wild. Who could be so conceited to ever make such a claim? It takes years of blood, sweat, and tears to reach my level, Neek said. Sweat and tears, fine, but blood? Maybe he once stabbed himself with a pencil while drawing? Anyone can scribble on some scrap paper. It's about whether readers can sense the passion behind those lines. Neek rambled on. Meanwhile, I pondered about matters concerning the universe, like whether I should have fish or rabbit for lunch tomorrow. Hey, are you even listening? Neek asked. Yeah, art, talent, sweat, passion. Cool. Neek sighed. I started drawing because my parents barely made enough bronze to feed themselves. Zolu saw my art on the streets and let me draw for her in the temple. For that, I owe her my life. Neek's eyes met mine. Zolu told me she wanted to look into your past. I know it means a lot to her, so listen. I'm begging you here. Neek fell onto all fours, the way Zolu often did. Since we met, he had challenged me over every little thing. Whose breath stank more in the mornings, who stepped on more rabbit poo in a day, and whatever else. I never imagined I would see him plead like this. Fine, I'll do it, I said. I swear, if I die in the process, my spirit will curse you into never growing another inch. You'll be safe. Neek rose, brushing dirt off his pants. I give you my golden promise. Yeah, that's helpful. Those words assured me about as much as a spider promising it would never crawl into my face at night. Much better to kill with fire, if you ask me. Nick gestured me to follow him into his tent. I did as asked and found Zolu sitting inside. I got him to say yes, Nick said. His proud tone made me feel like I had been scammed by a con artist. Zolu twirled her fingers as if knitting an invisible scarf. You'd have my eternal gratitude, Guy, but are you sure? I shrugged. You can thank Neek, I guess. He went all out, convincing me into playing along. Oh, thank you! Zolu hopped up to Neek and coiled her arms around him. Neek's head swiveled as if his spirit had drifted off to the moon. Better let him go, Zolu, or his soul might never return. That would be unfortunate. Zolu released Neek and spun to face me. In that case, please pardon my rudeness, Guy. Zolu clasped my shoulders and lowered me to her height. She pressed 2 fingers against my left temple, followed by another 2 on the right. Goddess of Time, rewind the clock and grant me your vision. Okay. As Zolu chanted under her breath, the grass underfoot began to shake. It felt just like the carpet quaking whenever Mion performed a ritual back in the temple. I felt as if needles were poking into my brain, but Zolu gritted her teeth, and the pain went away. She really kept to her word about keeping me safe, but perhaps it came at the cost of her well-being. I could feel the sweat on her fingertips staining my temples. Neek furrowed his brows in my direction. That look told me that if I asked for a break now, he would cut off one of my butt cheeks. Both if I changed my mind and never wanted to do this again. The earth ceased rumbling as Zolu stopped rumbling, maybe? As Zolu lowered her hands. Neek pulled a handkerchief from his pocket to brush the sweat off her neck. And we're going to have to leave things there, because unfortunately we're out of time. We're going to have to find out what did she find next time. As always, thank you for joining me. I hope you're having fun with this story, and I'm curious to see where this goes. I'm still betting that his sister shows up at some point. That's Chekhov's gun right now. It's got to appear at some point. So hit that subscribe button so you can check out future episodes and see our backlog of Game Break series and convention shenanigans and interviews and all the fun stuff we're up to. And by all means, post in the comments what you think of the series so far and what you think may be going on beyond this. And as always, go be creative. Go enjoy some other people's stories, go create some stories of your own, and then share them with others so we can all have a fun time. And I will see you all next time.